A moonless night over Nazi-occupied France, June 5, 1944.
The roar of C-47 engines drowns out everything as American heroes, tough, unbreakable warriors, leap into the abyss, parachutes blooming like defiant stars against a flak-filled sky.
But among them is a legend, a rebel with a cause, who would become the epitome of American grit and glory. This is the story of Jake McNasty McNiece, the Choctaw demolition king who led the infamous Filthy 13, the baddest, boldest bunch of paratroopers in World War II. Stick around, patriots, because what follows is a tale of rebellion, heroism, and unbreakable spirit that screams red, white, and blue. You won't believe how these underdogs turned the tide of D-Day, and trust me, by the end, you'll be cheering for more. Born on May 24, 1919, in Maysville, Oklahoma, Jake McNiece grew up in the heartland of America, where the spirit of the frontier still burned bright. As a proud Choctaw Native American, he carried the warrior legacy of his ancestors in his blood, fierce, unyielding, and ready to fight for freedom. But McNiece wasn't your cookie-cutter soldier. No sir, he was a firecracker wrapped in stars and stripes, the kind of guy who embodied the American dream: work hard, play harder, and never back down from a scrap. Enlisting in the U.S. Army in 1942, he quickly found his calling in the elite paratroopers, joining the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the legendary 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles, America's airborne avengers who struck fear into the hearts of tyrants. McNiece earned his nickname McNasty, not from some fancy medal ceremony, but from his raw, unfiltered attitude that made him a nightmare for brass hats and a hero to his brothers in arms. Picture this: a man who refused to salute officers he didn't respect, who brawled with military police just for the thrill, and who led his squad in outright mutiny against pointless regulations. Demoted time and again for insubordination, down to private more times than you can count, he'd claw his way back up through sheer battlefield brilliance. That's the American way: rise from the ashes, prove the doubters wrong, and deliver victory with a smirk. And then there were the Filthy 13. Oh man, these guys were the stuff of legends, the renegades who turned rebellion into an art form. Inspired by McNiece's Choctaw heritage, they shaved their heads into fierce mohawks, smeared on war paint like ancient warriors charging into battle, and flat out refused to bathe as a badge of honor. Why wash off the luck? They'd say with a grin. This wasn't just show, it was psychological warfare, American style. The Nazis saw these painted devils dropping from the sky and quaked in their boots. The Filthy 13 weren't just soldiers, they were saboteurs supreme, experts in demolition and chaos, handpicked for missions that demanded guts, guile, and a whole lot of explosives. Their reputations spread like wildfire through the ranks.
Fights with MPs? Check.
Unauthorized escapades?
Double check.
But when the chips were down, these misfits delivered. They specialized in high-stakes sabotage, blowing bridges, derailing trains, and disrupting enemy lines with precision that saved countless American lives. McNiece molded them into a tight-knit crew, brothers bonded by blood, sweat, and shared defiance. They were the underbelly of the greatest generation, not the polished poster boys, but the gritty grinders who got the job done dirty. As D-Day loomed, the largest invasion in history, where America's finest would storm the beaches to liberate Europe, the Filthy 13 got the call.
High risk? You bet. Impossible odds? That's their playground.
McNiece and his crew geared up for a jump into hell, armed with TNT, Tommy guns, and that unbreakable Yankee spirit.
But what happened next?
A drop gone wrong, isolation behind enemy lines, and a betrayal from the skies that tested their mettle like never before.
Hang tight, freedom lovers, this is just the beginning.
In the next part, we'll dive into the chaos of that fateful night.
You think you know D-Day heroes?
Wait till you hear how McNasty flipped the script on the Nazis.
Don, click away, the real fireworks are coming.
Imagine the thunder of engines shaking the night sky over England on June 5, 1944, the eve of the biggest gamble in human history. Hundreds of C-47 Dakotas lined up like steel eagles, loaded with America's finest, paratroopers ready to leap into the jaws of hell to smash Hitler's fortress Europe.
Among them?
Jake McNasty McNiece and his legendary Filthy 13, mohawked, war-painted badasses who looked more like ancient warriors than GS. This wasn't just another jump, this was D-Day's opening punch, a suicide mission to drop behind enemy lines and blow the bridges that could drown the Allied invasion in German steel.
Patriots, buckle up, this is the moment raw American courage met pure chaos.
What happens next will leave you on the edge of your seat, rooting for these rebels every step of the way. Don't bail now, the real action is just igniting. The mission briefing had been crystal clear, delivered in that no-nonsense tone only airborne officers could pull off. The Filthy 13, as the 1st Demolition Section of the Regimental Headquarters Company, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles, were assigned one of the most critical tasks of Operation Overlord. Their job: infiltrate deep into Nazi-held Normandy, locate the vital bridges spanning the Douve River, and either secure them for advancing Allied forces or rig them with enough explosives to send them sky-high if the Germans tried to cross. Why? Simple. Those bridges were lifelines for panzer divisions waiting to counterattack the beaches at Utah and Omaha. Cut them off, and Eisenhower's boys on the sand had a fighting chance to link up and push inland. Fail, and the whole invasion could stall, costing thousands more American lives. McNiece, now effectively leading the outfit after Lieutenant Charles Mellon's fate loomed, rallied his crew with that trademark grin. These weren't green recruits. They were demolition experts, saboteurs trained to turn TNT into terror. Loaded with packs stuffed with composition C4, Bangalore torpedoes, and enough bang to level a small town, they boarded their C-47s under the cover of darkness. The plane vibrated with nervous energy, jokes cracked to mask the fear, cigarettes glowing in the dim red lights.
McNiece, face streaked in Choctaw, inspired war paint, mohawk standing proud, embodied the unbreakable spirit of the American fighting man, defiant, resourceful, and ready to raise hell.
As the armada crossed the channel, the sky erupted. German anti-aircraft guns, 88s and lighter flak, lit up like deadly fireworks, tracers stitching the blackness. Their C-47 took hits almost immediately, engines screaming in protest as pilots dodged and weaved.
The red light flashed, jump now or die in the burning wreck.
The green light snapped on early, way too early. Men tumbled out into the maelstrom, chutes opening amid bursting shells and machine gun bursts. The drop was a disaster. Pathfinders scattered, drop zones missed by miles. McNiece hit the silk and plummeted, landing hard in a flooded marshy field miles off target, alone in the pitch-black heart of enemy territory.
Hedgerows loomed like dark walls. Normandy's infamous bocage, perfect for ambushes.
German patrols roamed nearby, voices carrying on the wind. McNiece gathered his wits, checked his explosives, and his Thompson submachine gun. No backup, no radio contact, just him, his training, and that fierce Oklahoma grit. He was deep behind the lines, surrounded by the Wehrmacht, but the mission burned in his chest: find those bridges, blow them if needed, and hold until the cavalry arrived. Little did he know the real fight, and a shocking twist from his own side, was only beginning. Hold on, freedom fighters. This lone wolf start is just the spark. In the next section, McNiece links up with scattered brothers, defies orders, and turns isolation into an advantage. The Nazis are coming hard, but so is American tenacity. Stay locked in. You won't want to miss how McNasty turns the tables in the dead of night.
The legend grows stronger from here.
The pitch-black chaos of Normandy's flooded fields on June 6, 1944, machine guns rattling, tracers slicing the night, and every shadow hiding a German patrol ready to end you. Alone in enemy territory, miles from anywhere safe, stands Jake McNasty McNiece. One man, a Thompson submachine gun, explosives on his back, and that unbreakable American fire in his gut.
No squad, no radio, just pure grit and the mission burning hotter than fear.
Patriots, this is where legends are forged in isolation and defiance. This is the heart-pounding survival chapter that turns scattered paratroopers into an unstoppable force. Stay glued. The rebellion, the reunions, and the bold stand against orders are about to explode. You won't hit pause on this one. McNiece hit the ground hard in a soggy marsh, the drop zone a total mess from flak and bad navigation. Germans were everywhere. Patrols crunching through the bocage hedgerows, voices barking orders in the dark. He moved like a ghost, using every trick his Choctaw heritage and paratrooper training taught him. Crawl low, listen sharp, strike fast. Skirmishes flared. Quick, brutal firefights where McNiece dropped enemies with precise bursts and kept moving, heart-pounding but never breaking. Using the challenge password system, Flash.
Thunder.
He linked up with scattered screaming eagles from the 101st. One by one, brothers emerged from the shadows, a fellow demolitions man here, a lost rifleman there. His group swelled to 5 tough paratroopers, all carrying wounds, low ammo, and high determination. They slogged through flooded fields, water up to their chests, dodging patrols and pushing toward the Douve River bridges, the key to strangling German reinforcements. Then came the encounter that tested McNiece's rebel soul. Near the La Barquette Lock area, they ran into Colonel Howard R. Johnson of the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment. The colonel, piecing together a shaky perimeter defense, ordered McNiece's small team to join up and hold the line against expected counterattacks.
Standard military logic: consolidate forces, survive the night. But McNiece? No way.
The bridges were the mission. Blow them if the Germans advanced, hold the main one if possible. Defying the order flat out, he insisted his crew press on to rig explosives and secure the crossings. Johnson wasn't thrilled, but McNiece's reputation and the urgency won out. The team peeled off, isolated once more, but laser-focused on the objective. This bold move cost them support but gained them freedom to act. They reached the wooden bridges, set charges on the smaller ones, and dug in at the vital main span leading toward Corentin. Days of fierce holding actions followed, mortars raining, Germans probing, but McNiece's crew turned defiance into demolition mastery. Freedom lovers, this act of insubordination wasn't rebellion for its own sake, it was pure American initiative saving the day. Next up, the brutal weight, the incoming threat, and that shocking friendly fire twist from the skies. The story hits its peak. Don't miss how McNasty and his boys stare down hell itself. Keep watching, the payoff is legendary. The gut-wrenching roar of American fighter engines diving out of the Normandy sky on June 10, 1944, P-51 Mustangs screaming low, bombs away, straight toward the very bridge your own brothers are defending with their lives. This isn't enemy fire. This is friendly fire, the ultimate betrayal from above, unleashed on Jake McNasty McNiece and what remained of his filthy 13 after 5 brutal days of holding hell at bay. Patriots, this is the darkest, most heart-pounding twist in the entire saga, when your own side drops death on you to save the mission. The courage it took to survive this moment defines raw American resilience. Stay locked in. This section delivers the raw emotion, the sacrifice, and the unbreakable will that turn tragedy into triumph. You won't look away. The payoff hits harder than any bomb. For 5 agonizing days, McNiece and his small crew of 5 had turned the main Dove River Bridge into an unbreakable fortress. They had already wired and detonated the smaller secondary spans, cutting off German routes and buying precious time for the beach landings. Now dug in around the critical wooden structure leading to Corentin, they faced relentless German assaults, waves of infantry probing, mortars hammering their positions, machine guns raking the riverbanks. Ammo ran low, food was gone, but McNiece's men refused to budge. They fought house to house in the flooded fields, used every scrap of cover, and answered every attack with fierce determination. Mortar shrapnel caught McNiece square in the face during one barrage, temporarily blinding him and tearing into his body. Bloodied and in searing pain, he still directed fire, rigged fallback charges, and kept his team alive through sheer force of will. His Choctaw warrior spirit refused to yield, even as days blurred into a nightmare of constant combat. Then came the contingency they never wanted to face. Back at headquarters, Colonel Howard R. Johnson had set a strict protocol. If no radio confirmation arrived from the demolition team within a set window, U.S. air support would bomb the bridge to ensure the Germans could never use it. Communications had failed from the start. Scattered drops, lost radios, isolation. 5 days of silence meant only one thing to the brass: assume the worst. On the morning of the 5th day, the sky filled with the unmistakable whine of P-51 Mustangs. McNiece's men looked up in disbelief as the silver fighters rolled in, bombs tumbling free. Explosions ripped across their position, earth-shaking blasts that shredded the bridge timbers, hurled men into the river, and killed several of the filthy 13 instantly. Shrapnel tore through the survivors. The main span collapsed in flames. McNiece, already wounded, was thrown by the concussion, ears ringing, vision a blur of fire and smoke. Friendly fire, the horror every soldier dreads, had struck his own team to guarantee the objective. Yet the strike achieved its grim purpose. The bridge was gone, German armor stalled for good.
The immediate threat ended.
Moments later, a final desperate German assault came charging across the open ground, only to be met by the battered, furious survivors who refused to die that day. McNiece's remaining men, fueled by rage and loyalty, repelled the attack with everything they had left: grenades, bayonets, last rounds. The Germans broke and fell back. In the smoking aftermath, reinforcements finally arrived, securing the sector. The mission, despite the terrible cost, was complete. McNiece, scarred and grieving his fallen brothers, lived to fight another day, carrying the weight of that moment forever. Freedom fighters, this wasn't just a bombing. It was proof that American heroes endure even when the sky itself turns against them. The legend of McNasty reaches its most intense peak here. In the final section, we see how this unbreakable man and his filthy 13 legacy inspired generations.
Don, leave now. The story's greatest honor awaits. Keep watching. True American grit never fades.
The final roar of victory echoing across the ruins of Nazi Europe, the bridges blown, the beaches secured, the tyrants on the run. But for Jake McNasty McNiece and his unbreakable filthy 13, the fight was far from over. These American rebels didn't just survive D-Day's chaos, they charged into the heart of hell again and again, proving that true heroes don't quit when the mission's done. Patriots, this is the epic conclusion you've been waiting for. The aftermath that turned legends into icons, the legacy that still fires up every red-blooded American today. Stick with me to the end. You're about to see how one man's grit and a squad of misfits became eternal symbols of freedom's unbreakable spirit.
The greatest generation's story doesn't fade, it inspires forever.
As the smoke cleared over the Dove River bridges in June 1944, U.S. reinforcements finally pushed through, linking up with the battered paratroopers and securing the vital crossings. The mission, deemed a resounding success despite the heavy toll, was critical in stalling German armor and buying precious time for the Allied forces storming Normandy's beaches. McNiece, temporarily blinded and wounded from the friendly firebombing that had nearly ended him, refused to be sidelined. Patched up and fueled by that same defiant Oklahoma fire, he regrouped what remained of his crew and pressed on through the hedgerows, linking with larger elements of the 101st Airborne. The Screaming Eagles had held the line, and McNiece's demolition expertise had played no small part in turning potential disaster into triumph. But McNasty wasn't one to rest on laurels. The war raged on, and so did he. In September 1944, he jumped again, this time into the ill-fated Operation Market Garden in the Netherlands, the daring Airborne thrust immortalized in a bridge too far. Dropping behind enemy lines once more, McNiece and surviving Filthy 13 members tackled sabotage and pathfinding duties amid brutal fighting. Then came the frozen hell of December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge. As Hitler's last desperate gamble smashed through the Ardennes, McNiece helped resupply surrounded troops during the heroic siege of Bastogne. Freezing, low on ammo, and facing overwhelming odds, he led demolition raids and held key positions, embodying the raw tenacity that defined America's airborne warriors. Through it all, he racked up an impressive tally of decorations: 4 Bronze Stars, including Valor Devices, 2 Purple Hearts for wounds received in combat, Arrowhead Awards for assault landings, and later in life, the prestigious French Legion of Honor Chevalier class in 2012, France's highest recognition for his role in liberating their soil. The Filthy 13's wild reputation didn't stay buried in classified reports. Their real-life antics, mohawks, war paint, rule-breaking bravado, inspired Jem Nathanson's 1965 novel The Dirty Dozen, which exploded onto screens in 1967 as the blockbuster film starring Lee Marvin. While Hollywood amped up the drama, convicted criminals, no-bath packs, the core spirit, misfits turned elite saboteurs who got the impossible done, was straight from McNiece's playbook. The movie captured the imagination of millions, cementing the Filthy 13 as pop culture icons of unconventional heroism. After the war, McNiece returned home to Ponca City, Oklahoma, living quietly but never forgetting his brothers. Co-authoring the Filthy 13, From the Dust Bowl to Hitler's Eagle's Nest with Richard Kilblain in 2003, he shared unfiltered stories that thrilled World War II buffs worldwide. He toured the US and Europe, speaking to schools, veterans groups and history enthusiasts, keeping the flame alive for younger generations. A Choctaw warrior at heart, he bridged Native American heritage with American valor, showing how defiance and duty could coexist. Jake McNasty McNiece passed away on January 21, 2013, at age 93 in Chatham, Illinois, at his son's home, one of the last living legends of that storied unit. His wife Martha followed in 2015. But his legacy endures. In every airborne motto, every tale of grit under fire, every reminder that real American heroes are often the rebels who rise when it counts most.
There you have it, freedom lovers, the full saga of McNasty and the Filthy 13, from moonlit jumps to eternal inspiration.
If this fired you up, share it, remember it, live it. These men didn't just win a war, they showed the world what unbreakable American spirit looks like. Thanks for riding along to the end. What a hell of a story.
God bless the greatest generation.